So good morning, everyone. Yeah, so once again, good morning. I hope all of you doing well. So today we have reached the 10th day of our Unbreakable Challenge, and it's happy to see you, at least 10 to 20 people writing consistently and sending me the answers. So keep doing up, keep being disciplined, and let's continue for the next 60 days as well. So those who are not part of the Unbreakable Challenge, do join the Telegram link which is provided in the description below. So today we are going to be dealing with the last day of the Indian society, and today we'll be focusing on the globalization and urbanization. Now, this is the most significant portion with related to Indian society. Okay, when you compare the last 10 years of question paper, there have been more than 17 questions from both urbanization and globalization, and mostly it's very easy to predict the globalization and urbanization questions. Okay, so when you actually compare to the when you actually come into the urbanization question, mostly question regarding IT industries are asked. You have 3 questions related to IT industries. How does the IT industry lead to socioeconomic implications? How does the IT industry lead to the growth of small rural areas? How does the IT industries lead to migration in India? So 3 questions have been asked in previous years. Also, the second most important topic is regarding globalization and culture. In case of globalization culture also, we have 3 questions. First one, you can see it here. Is diversity and pluralism in India under the threat of globalization? Now the second one, is India losing our global identity with regard to globalization? And the third one, how does the cultural homogenization, and some question related to globalization and culture one. So what I'm saying you is that you need to prepare your one-pager notes regarding globalization and how it's affect the culture, and also the importance of IT industries in socioeconomic implications of the urban areas or even for the Indian population. Also, last Saturday, we had a different approach, right? We actually focused on live answer writing. Now today also, we won't be, I won't be live answer writing. Rather, let's try something new. Usually, all of you take around 7 minutes or 7.5 minutes or even 8 minutes to write your 10 answers, right? For your 10 markers, right? But then today, you have 6 questions in front of you instead of 5 questions. Now, what I want to do is that let's keep it to 30 minutes. You have 30 minutes to complete your answers. So that's like for every 6 questions, you can dedicate 5 minutes. So 6 into 5 equal to 30 minutes. Okay, you will have exactly 5 minutes to finish all your answers. Now, how will you finish, or why am I training you in 30 minutes? Now, usually, I have written 4 mains examinations. So, one thing that all of us face an issue is that regarding the time management. Okay, all of us face the issue regarding time management. Now, what do we do when we reach the last questions? For exactly the last 5 questions or even the last 3 questions that we write, we don't provide introductions and conclusions. Okay, since there is a lack of time, or since there is a crunch of time, we skip the introductions and conclusions for the questions and we write only the body part. Okay, so today as well, for these 6 questions, you need to finish it in 30 minutes. Now, how will you finish in 30 minutes? You can skip the introductions and conclusion, because this is going to be helping you to complete your paper in GS. Because if you compare a 10 marker question, 1 mark is for the introduction, 8 marks is for the body part, and 1 mark is for the conclusion. Okay, so the most important points, the most important time you should be dedicating your body part. Therefore, you can skip your introduction as well as your conclusion. So everyone clear? So these are the 5 questions for today, and try to complete it within the next 30 minutes. So you can pause the video of those who are writing mains. Others, if you want to hear what you can write, what you need to write, you can continue watching the session. So see, these are the 6 questions. I hope it has come in the group. 1 second, let me check. Just a second. Yeah, it has been uploaded in the group. Now, let's move on to the questions, okay? Now, the first one. What are the main socio-economic implications arising out of the development of IT industries in major cities of India? Now, major cities of India is not a significant directive here or a significant relevance here. This basically have no relevance. What does the question basically tell you? What are the main socio and economic implications? So you need to write the social and also economic implications of what? Of development of IT industries. Now, what does implications mean? Implication doesn't mean that you should only write the positive part, right? Most of you, if you after seeing this question, you will be writing, okay, fine, there are a lot of positives. Now, social implications is a gender neutral, I mean, not a gender neutral, it's a neutral term, right? So therefore, you need to write the positives as well as the negatives of the growth and development of IT industries. Now, how do you frame it? Let's say for the introduction, you can actually skip the introduction. You don't need to write it because we are going to be finishing it in the next 30 minutes. But then if you want to write, you can mention about the growth of or development of IT industries. You can mention the growth and development of IT industries. You can mention terms such as 1991 LPG reforms. You can mention about LPG reforms, or you can mention any of the SCZ which has been recently inaugurated. You can mention any of the SCZ special economic zones, or you can mention any of the cities such as Noida, Gurugram, DLF cities, or anything. Okay. Now, second one, what should you write for the body part? First of all, you can start with the positive implications. So in the introduction, you can mention it had both positive and negative implications, or provide a neutral term. Okay, you don't need to directly go for very positive terms. You can provide a neutral term in the introduction. Now, positive itself should be divided into two, right? Firstly, you should mention the social points, and then you should mention the negative points. Sorry, economic points. So what are the social points? You can mention about reduction of poverty. You can mention about increasing social mobility. You can mention about urban migration. You can mention about development of cosmopolitan culture. You can mention about reduction in caste and religious issues. So you can write such a lot of points here. Now, what about economic implications? Positive economic implications. You can write about employment opportunities. You can write about increasing export. You can write about urban mobility. You can write about the increase in informal sector jobs, such as auto rickshaws, metro wala people. So try to provide a lot of points regarding the same in respect to social and economic. Now, what about the negative implications? There are a lot of negative implications, right? You can mention about in social, in case of negative. You can mention about the loss of culture. Now, this is one of the significant issue faced in Bangalore, okay? So I studied in Bangalore for 3 years. I graduated from Christ University, Bangalore. And these people, I mean, the local Kannadigas doesn't actually like us. They actually taunt us when we get into auto rickshaws and all, because they feel that because of the cosmopolitan culture, their culture is basically degrading, right? So this is one of the issues faced, loss of culture. You can mention rise in inequality. You can mention about rural and urban divide. So try to mention all these issues. Negative implications of economic. You can try to generate all these points. Okay. Now, in case of conclusion, what can you provide? Development, focus on the more positive implications of IT industries. Because India's growth has been service-led growth, the government should focus more on IT-led industries, even in the rural areas, or even the Tier 1 or Tier 2 cities. Or IT industries play a major role in the achievement of goal of Amar. Now, don't try to bring developed country by 2047 because this is more related to CS3 form of conclusion, but then try to bring Amar or something like that. Okay. Now, this is for the first question. Now, moving on to the second one. Account for the, you might feel this is a geography question, but then this is also related to urbanization as well. So, account for the huge flooding of million cities in India, including the smart ones like Hyderabad and Pune. Now here, in this question, you don't have to focus too much on Hyderabad and Pune. These are just examples, okay? So when you provide the examples regarding the same, maybe you can include 1 or 2 examples regarding Hyderabad and Pune. Rather, you don't have to focus more on why the flooding takes place in Hyderabad or why flooding takes place in Pune. UPSC just provided 2 examples. Okay. So here, what does the question say? Account for the huge flooding of million cities in India. So firstly, you can mention what million cities are in India, including the smart ones. Smart ones are basically the smart cities. Cities have been included in the smart city program. We have around 100 cities which have been included in the smart cities program. These are basically the smart cities. Suggest lasting remedial measures. Now, for the first body part, even for the introduction, what can you write? Introduction can be in 2 different ways. Either you can provide a contemporary example regarding the same, such as recently, now we are undergoing monsoon, right? So if there was a news regarding any flooding of cities, such as maybe Mumbai, Chennai, Kochi, Trivandrum, these are smart cities, right? So you can mention that recently, during the monsoon floods, monsoon rains, several of our smart cities have been flooded. Something like that. Or you could provide a very general introduction, such as saying, million cities are those which have a population over a million, and these cities often face the issues of urban flooding. Okay, so try to bring in the urban flooding into the picture. Now, what is the first body part? Account for the huge flooding of million cities. Now, what do you have to write here? You have to basically provide the reasons for flooding, right? Reasons for flooding. Now, in what framework can you write here? Can you write the social framework, political framework, economic framework? No. You can write the institutional framework here. You can write about environmental factors here. And also you can provide the lack of political factors or even the institutional factors as well. So let's say first we can write about the geographical factors. Now what can the geographical factors mean? We can mention climate change. You can mention climate change and erratic rainfall. Erratic rainfall. You can mention about the Trivandrum floods or Chennai floods of 2015. So we have mentioned the climatic. You can mention about rivers overflowing. Rivers overflowing may be due to heavy rainfall, the same as well, or even to opening of dam shutters or anything like that. You can mention Delhi floods due to overflowing of Yamuna. Overflowing of Yamuna. Now, other than that, go for the institutional measures such as you can mention. Now, what are the institutional measures? You can mention several points, right? You can mention about lack of proper drainage. You can mention about we have basically taken away all the encroachments near the rivers. You can mention about lack of urban planning. You can mention about the lack of long-term planning. You can mention about the lack of sewage centers. You can sewage treatment plants. You can mention about all these factors, okay, like poor governance, all these factors I can mention. Now try to mention, since this is a 10-mark question and it's almost a very simple question, try to mention at least 6 to 7 points regarding institutional and also geographical factors. Okay, now leading to the second body part, suggest lasting remedial measures. So what does lasting mean? Lasting means it should be long term. It should be long term measures, not such as cleaning the drainage before the monsoons. They are very short term measures, right? Now you have to provide the long term measures. Now, what can be long term measures? Long term measures can be institutional measures. It can be different measures, right? So the first one can be removal of encroachment of rivers, encroachment, construction of embankments. You can mention the spawn city concept of China. Spawn city concept. You can mention greening of urban cities. Greening of cities using maybe Miyawaki method. Construction of floodstone centers. Construction of proper drainage. Long-term plans such as, try to provide all these things. Also, you can provide construction of dams to regulate the flow of rivers. So try to provide long-term measures rather than providing short-term measures, okay? Now, how can you conclude this question? Conclude by providing the global best practices. In different cities, in different states, they have tried out different methods to reduce the flooding, right? You can mention maybe the spawn city concept in China. You can mention, actually, after the Dubai floods of, I guess, 2020 or 2021, Dubai actually remodeled the city throughoutly so that the urban floods doesn't happen again. So you can mention that. Try to mention a global best practice and try to provide the conclusion. Okay. Now, with regard to the third question, how is efficient and affordable urban mass transport key to economic development in India? Now, this is a good question because I guess this was a current affairs one. So, what is the question ask you? How is efficient and affordable mass urban transport? Now, what does affordable mass transport mean? It can be trains such as Delhi Metro. It can be MMRTS, such as we have the Meerut Ghaziabad. It can be buses. It can be like trains, such as we have Suburban Railway in Chennai, Mumbai especially. So these are the urban transport models, or it can be trams, such as we have the Kolkata tram. Okay, so these are the different urban models key to rapid economic development in India. Now you have to mention, how does the efficient and affordable urban mass transport is key to rapid economic development in India? How does it promote rapid economic development? Now, does it mean here you have to write only a single body part here? Can anyone identify any other body part? How is efficient and affordable mass transport key to rapid economic development in India? So we cannot never say that urban mass transport doesn't lead to economic development, right? We can never provide that. Now, what can you provide as a different body part? You can mention the challenges to urban and mass transport. Right? You can mention the challenges, such as for the construction of Delhi Metro, it has incurred this much cost. It is very time consuming. Lack of governance. So you can mention all these factors. You can mention white elephants. White elephants refers to what? White elephants basically refers to those infrastructure projects which doesn't generate much revenue, such as the Mumbai monorail. It's a very loss-making firm. You can mention about Delhi MMRTS. If you see the videos, you'll understand that no one is actually taking that. So you can mention white elephants. You can mention the long-term cost. You can mention it's very time-consuming. You can also mention the lack of governance and every other issue that is there. So what about the first body part? How? Now, in case of introduction, what can you write? You can introduce by saying efficient and affordable mass transport, right? So you can mention a recent current affairs article. So you can mention recently Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the MMRTS from Meerut to Ghaziabad, or you can mention recently Prime Minister inaugurated the second phase of Kochi Metro, or recently Prime Minister inaugurated the Nagpur Metro, or any other metro which is out there. Okay, so try to mention all these current affairs example, and this efficient and affordable mass transport is touted to be a key to rapid economic development in India. Now try to provide a transition regarding the same. Now you can go for the first body part. Now how does it leads to urban economic development? First one is try to answer in case of social points. Political points are not there. We can go for the economic points as well. Sorry, the question is basically lead to economic development, right? So we cannot write any social points, rather we need to write about the economic points only. So what are the economic points? First of all, you can focus on the time. Reduces the time between commute, increases GDP or something. You can mention reduces the logistics cost, and you can mention currently 14% of India's GDP is going for logistics. You can mention about growth in employment opportunities. Even for the Delhi Metro, you can see there are n number of shops inside the Delhi Metro, even in the Karol Bagh. You can mention a lot of auto drivers are dependent on the people coming out of the metro. You have the metro CF people are there. The metro basically employs all these riders, all these other people. So you can mention about employment opportunities. You can mention about growth of tier 2 cities. Now what does it do? Now currently I am staying in Nevada. Nevada is like half an hour, like 14 to 15 kilometers from here. Now why do I stay in Nevada? It's because I can get onto the blue line and come here. Now what does it lead to? It basically leads to the growth of villages or even tier 1 and tier 2 or tier 3 cities, right? Because people from the tier 2 and tier 3 cities can come to Delhi because there is Delhi Metro. So it has led to the growth of Gurugram. It has led to the growth of Noida, right? So the development of growth of tier 2 and tier 3 cities. You can mention the recreational activities, right? Recreational activities would be there, such as cafes inside. You can provide all these points. Employment, maybe you can provide tourism activities, reduces logistics cost, employment activities, you can provide all these points. Now what about the challenges? Challenge is something that we have already discussed. Now what about the conclusion? You can provide anything, okay? You can maybe provide SDG goals. One of the SDG goals is related to sustainable cities. So you can provide that. Or you can provide any other thing, okay? The government of India should aim to construct more metros. or the government of India should aim to construct 100 metros in 100 cities by 2050. The government of India should aim to connect all these cities, all the Indian major cities through the high-speed railways, such as the Ahmedabad-Mumbai railway by 2050. You can provide any conclusion, you can provide any suggestion of your manner. Okay. Now, third one. Now here it also mentions affordable, right? So affordable can also be related to economic development. It can also mention it tries to reduce poverty. Now, if I was staying in Nevada and I had to come here, then I would have to pay by cab. So every day I would have to pay around 300 to 600 rupees for the cab. But then for the Delhi Metro, I only pay around 32 rupees. So also you can mention it reduces the poverty level. It increases the disposable income that every person have. You can also mention all these points, okay? Now, fourth one, is diversity and pluralism in India under threat due to globalization? Justify your answer. Now, the question basically asks, is diversity and pluralism in India under threat? Now, should we only answer that, okay, fine, pluralism and diversity is under threat due to globalization, or should we provide a different point of view? We should be providing a different point of view, right? So the first body part, you can mention, yes, globalization, diversity and pluralism is threat under globalization. Now, what can the second body part be? It shouldn't be no. You can mention globalization strengthens pluralism and diversity of India. So you should be providing two body parts here. But then, what about the weightage here? Should you be providing equal weightage to globalization, pluralism, under threat and globalization, and also how globalization strengthens diversity and pluralism? No, we shouldn't be providing equal weightage here. The first weightage, the most important weightage, around 60 or even 70% of the points should be related to how diversity and pluralism is under threat due to globalization. Okay, now 40 to 30% of the points can be related to no, globalization actually strengthens some of the Indian diversity and pluralism. That is how you have to write this answer. Now, what about the introduction? Introduction, you can mention due to globalization, the Indian society is undergoing several changes and it has been affecting our pluralism and diversity. If you can mention any of the examples regarding the same, any of the contemporary examples regarding the same, you can mention, or else you can provide a very general introduction. Now, don't try to define globalization, okay? Globalization is a very generic word which all of us knows. So don't try to define what is globalization. So you can write, due to the era of globalization after 1991, the Indian society has been undergoing different changes affecting its diversity or even pluralism. Now, the first body part, how globalization affects Indian diversity and pluralism. Now here you can provide n number of points, right? Now try to think about our daily life. Let's say the dress we are wearing. Now I am wearing shirt and I am wearing pants. So our dress is affected. I am not wearing the Kerala dhoti or even the Kerala munda as we call it here. Now second one, what did I eat today? I ate basically bread, egg and salad. So if it has affected my food, then it has affected our culture. I'm speaking to you in English. I'm not speaking to you in terms of my native language, which is Malayalam. So it has affected our food, dress, culture. And when I came on the metro, I was actually watching the new Squid Game series. So it has affected my taste of music. It has affected my taste of movies. I didn't watch any regional movies such as any Mohanlal related movies or something. I watched a Squid Game, which is a global westernized movie. And today afternoon, I'll be eating from KFC. So you can write the process of McDonaldization. So try to bring all these points, okay? Now you can mention about language. You can mention about language. You can mention about caste. Due to globalization, caste differences are going. You can mention about the dress. You can mention about the taste in music, movies, art. Usually people are going for rock bands, jazz kind of music, mostly about Hollywood movies, Hollywood songs, which basically affects our regional singers, right? Then you can mention about tribal. The tribals are basically losing their culture and everything. You can mention all these factors, okay? Caste, language, food. Food is something you can add. Affecting like everything. Our joint family system. We are shifting towards nuclear family system. So try to mention all these factors. Now, what about the other factor? Is diversity and pluralism in India under threat due to globalization? We have mentioned it, how they are threatening. And also on the second body part, you can mention how globalization actually promotes or strengthens diversity and pluralism. Now, what can you provide? You can mention about yoga. Yoga is basically undergoing a significant global transformation. We actually celebrate the International Day of Yoga. Now, second one, you can mention the promotion of culture, such as you had even in the UN, the Diya lights are being lighted, right? Even in the US president during Diwali, they actually light the lamps and also light the diyas. So Indian culture is promoting globally. The Indian tourists, I mean the foreign travelers, are basically adopting Indian culture. A lot of them we can see, we could have seen them in basically the Kumbh Mela and everything. Then you can promote Ayurveda, especially in my state, which is Kerala. A lot of people come for Ayurvedic treatment. Okay, so Ayurvedic activities have given a significant boom. Also, due to the promotion of tourism, a lot of these traditional practices, such as Theyyam, be it Kathakali, be it Mohiniyattam, it's basically the foreigners who come and watch it, and they pay these artists. And because of that, these artists are getting significantly paid. So it has also led to promotion of arts, such as mainly due to tourism. Okay, so try to include all these points. And also, how do you conclude the same? Conclusion can be given in, we need globalization, but then we also need to be rooted in our culture, such as you can mention constitution articles such as it is the duty of every citizen to promote the heritage and culture, such as Article 51A6, A6 as in F. You can mention the goal of Virat B, Virasat B, which means development should also be there, and along with the cultural, this one, Virasat B. Also, always try to conclude your answer by the preservation of culture. Don't say that India should completely go for globalization and we should be a westernized community, become a global citizen. We should become global citizens, but by staying rooted in our culture. Okay, now this is the way you can conclude. Now, fifth one. Given the diversities among tribal communities in India, in which context should they be considered a single category? Now, this is a question which we don't expect to repeat because this is a one-off question. UPSC doesn't repeat these one-off questions, right? UPSC won't again ask you, in this context, should they be considered a single category? No, UPSC would never do that. But then, I want to focus on these areas. Given the diversity of tribal communities in India, in which context should they be considered a single category? Right. So by writing this question, you will understand the different diversities of tribal communities in India. Okay, now that is the reason. Now, what is the question ask you? Given the different diversities of tribal communities in India, in which context should they be considered as a single category? So we have different tribals, right? We have tribals in Northeast, we have tribals in Kerala, we have PVTGs, you have other different tribals. We have very successful or even prominent tribals groups like Meena in Rajasthan. Not every tribal group out there is very underprivileged or something. Okay, so what can you write in the introduction? Introduction, you can mention about the tribal communities in India, such as there are this much kind of tribal communities in India, or let's say you can provide 8.6% of Indian population are tribals, or you can mention the number of tribals in India. I guess around 705. There are around 705 tribal communities, or you can say there are 75 PBTGs or something of that sort you can provide. Now, what is the first body part? Given the diversities among tribal population in India. Second body part would be when should be considered in single category. Now, how should you divide the weightage here? Should you provide 50-50 percentage weightage due to both these body parts? First body part, you have to mention about the different diversities of tribal communities, and the second body part, you should consider in which category should they be considered single category. What do you think? Is it a 50-50 approach, 70-30 approach, 60-40 approach? What do you think? No, you shouldn't be writing in a 50-50 approach, okay? Because the question, this is a context setting. Given the different diversities among tribal communities in India, this basically sets the context here, okay? So you should not be writing 5 points here. You can just write 4 points here. What are the different tribal communities out there? But then, what is the most important context? In which context should they be considered single category? Now, this is the significant body part here. Here you have to mention around 6 points or 60% of the points. Okay, so the first body part would be the diversities among the tribal communities in India. Now, what are the diversities? You can mention, first of all, geographical diversity, such as we have tribes in the northeast. You have north tribes in Kerala and other different states. You can mention about the different languages that they speak. Languages, food, culture, all these different. You can mention about the different standard of living. Now, all tribals, does they live in forest or even the cities? No. We have hardly tribal communities who live in the forest, such as mostly the PBTGs are the tribals who live in the forest. Right. For example, the Meena community in Rajasthan, they are very prominent community, right? They have reservation, and almost 80 to 90% of the ST reservations, the government jobs and the education institutions are taken by the Meena community. So they are very prominent. So the standard of living actually differs. You can mention any other point, such as the use of language, as I said, food, culture, lifestyle, economic. So many of the communities are very poor, but then there are different communities which are very rich. So try to introduce the different communities, okay? Diversity, such as region, culture, food, language, standard of living, different communities. Now that is a context setting. Now what does the actual question ask you? In which context should they be considered single category? Now this is a main body part. Now how should they be considered in a single category? Or in which all categories which all areas should be they considered in a single category? First one, you can mention the constitution article. The constitution are in terms of constitution, they should be considered a single category, right? Under article 352, sorry, 300 and not 352, that's national emergency. 332, I guess, National Commission for Tribals, or in the definition of scheduled tribes. Second one, you can mention institutional measures for the composition of welfare schemes. They should be treated as a single category, such as National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, TriFed, Pradhan Mantri Vandhan Yojana, Pradhan Mantri, all the different welfare schemes, they should be treated as a single category. Next, you can mention because of the lack of standard of living. Not standard of living, because of the lack in, see, you know what I'm going to do, right? Because the ST literacy in India is very poor. ST literacy is very bad. The standard of living, the number of people living below poverty line is actually very huge. You can mention about the infant mortality rate. So for all these factors, the tribal communities should be taken together. And you can mention different points. Okay, try going for institutional, governance, social measures. They are often, the tribal communities are often neglected by the government. Tribal communities are often, they face caste based, they face a lot of issues. Therefore, they should be treated as a single category. Now, how can you conclude this question? You can mention that the government should undertake several measures for the upliftment of tribals to achieve the dream of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. You can mention the tribal communities also should be integrated in Indian society to achieve the goal of Ek Bharat, Shrestha Bharat. You can mention the goal of SDG Goal 10, reducing inequalities. You can mention all these factors, okay? Or you can mention about even the Nehru's dream of Panchsheel, tribal Panchsheel. Now here, I'm not going to be explaining this question. After all, always I leave you with a single question for you to slice it out, surgically analyze, for you to write this on your own. So, but then I'll tell you a brief. Here the question asks you, critically examine the effects of globalization on the aged population, right? Now, if the question was examine, okay, if the question was examine, we would have written negative aspects around 6 points and positive aspects you can write 40 points, 4 points, because mostly we have negative aspects, right, in terms of how globalization have affected the aged population. But then, since the question asks you to critically analyze, always when critically analyze, critically examine, and such questions, such directives is used, we should be always writing in a 50-50 percentage, right? So 50% of the points can be negative, such as the children have lost the respect for elders. Due to the nuclear family, there is no one to take care of the elderly. Due to the change in culture, such as technology, digital, they are not able to do it. So you try to provide all these points. Due to the promotion of individualism and the privacy, people, tend to live not with their parents, but then individual households. So you can go for the social points. You can go for technological points. You can go for economical points, such as rising cost of living, right? So try to provide all these points. Also, in case of positive implications as well, you try to provide the same, such as they can travel around the world now. They can get access to all these Blinkit, Swiggy, they can get food delivered to them. They don't have to depend on anyone. So try to mention all these points. Now, how can you conclude? Conclusion should be a very neutral approach, saying that the globalization has all the positive aspects and the government should take care of them by including the social security benefits and all that. You can mention the civil society, every individual needs to take care of their parents in a moral manner you can provide. You can mention anything. Okay. So that was the 6 questions. So when you write it, try to complete in 30 minutes. You don't need to share the introductions or the conclusions, but then try to provide the only body part, because in the actual UPSC paper, you would be facing, at times you would be facing time crunch. Therefore, you need to be trained by only writing body parts, introductions, by only writing the body parts. Now, let me tell you something about the time management. Now, when you write the main answer, when you write for the mains, you need to have a proper time management strategy, right? It's not like you randomly attempt questions, right? So there needs to be a proper time management. Now, it differs from different people. Okay, what I usually do that, I first write from 15 markers. I usually start from 15 markers because 15 markers are the gives the most dividend. In case of a 10 marker, you will get around 4.5 marks, but then 15 marker will give you more marks, and also the best marks in 50 marker will fetch you around 8 to 9 marks. Okay, so I usually go for the 15 markers first. So I try to finish in the 1 hour. I try to finish 15 markers by dedicating 10 minutes to each of the questions. This is very hard. I usually don't reach this, but then I try almost I try to complete 5 15 markers, that is 5 into 12, 60 minutes. Then I go from the first few 10 markers. Now try to write the first few questions very beautifully, okay? Because that is going to be your first impression from the evaluator. So your first impression needs to be very great. So try to take some time for writing the next 1 to 5 10 markers. You can take 40 minutes. Extra 5 minutes is also fine because it needs to be very beautiful. Then you can go from 15 to 20 or the other way around also, from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20. So try to have a proper time management strategy. Also, for the last few answers, if you're facing time crunch, don't write the introduction conclusion, just go for the body part directly. Okay? So that was a tense day. Hope the Unbreakable Challenge is actually providing you significant benefits, and also and I significantly hope that it helps you even for the 2026 attempt, even for preparing the one pager, even for giving you different dimensions, especially for those who are preparing for the 2025 mains. So once again, I hope you enjoy the session. So Sunday we won't be having class, but then Monday we start with geography, especially regarding the climatology, which is the most significant portion in case of geography. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a nice weekend.